is amazing.
We all have addictions. We're all alcoholics in one way or another.
Well, that's a weird thing about human progress and about just the human mind. In order to get really good at something, must become addicted. You must be obsessed. You must. I knew this early on. The madness of martial arts. When I became completely obsessed with martial arts, when I was winning all these tournaments and shit when I was a young teenager, I knew that ultimately this is like kind of self-destructive. That ultimately this is the same thing as being someone who's a cocaine addict or addicted to gambling or anything.
You're an extremist. Man.
I just figured out how to put it into this one thing and get really good at it and suck this reward out of this one thing. But besides the character developing aspects of it, it's very similar to an addiction. Really similar.
Yeah.
Because all I was
totally
doing all day long.
Although I do think that there is a fundamental distinction. And that fundamental distinction is when you throw yourself into something like martial arts that intensely, it's very different than what you consider a regular addiction. In that you have to come up against your own shortcomings to get better. You've got to be very honest with yourself and work on what you're not good at, train when you don't want to train through plateaus, and you get very familiar with what it takes to accomplish something and to keep accomplishing and get better. And then you can learn to take that particular experience and that paradigm and apply it to everything else.
My brother, that's my tattoo. That's Miyamoto Musashi. Once you understand the way broadly, you can see it in all things.
Thank you.
Most important thing that I ever read when I was a young boy. But
but I'm just saying
you're absolutely right. As in terms of the significance in our culture and in the positive aspects of it for your life. But I'm talking about it as sort of like a chemical reward action sort of a situation.
Yes. Well, when you break it down, that's the numbers.
Well, that's what
it's
I do.
It's all brain chemistry.
Everything I try to always pull it out of the culture. Yeah. Pull it out of the culture. Look at it as if you're a scientist. Yeah, exactly. Look at it as if you're a scientist from outer space. How would you look at this? Oh, well, this guy's good at kicking people in the head because he's got some crazy addiction. I couldn't even go to dinner with you. If I was out having dinner with someone or watching a movie that was about squirrels.
You're obsessed with it.
All I was thinking about was kicking people in the face. All I was thinking about is slip that shot and then boom, counter and move to the left and set him up with this. That's all I was thinking about all day. It's just like being a junkie. Yep. It's a positive junkie experience.
You have that. You have that. You're intense, man. When you get locked onto something, that's why you got to stay away from a golf course. Exactly. You'll go crazy.
Exactly. But Bryan seen me fucking play pool. It's horrific. He's gone out with me to pool halls.
It's like being with a heroin addict.
Yeah.
You won't stop, right? You can play all night.
Well, I get better with every game. So more focus, more in stroke, and 5 hours into it, I'm just warming up. Wow. And everybody's like, I want to go home. Like, I'm not even warmed up yet. I don't get in stroke till like 8 hours. Pay for 8 hours.
Is that right?
I get in stroke. Yeah, 8 hours, then you get into what's a zone where you just know exactly how much pressure to put on the cue. And this is, by the way, when you're not even under pressure, when you're not like under the gun gambling. This is just warming up. It's like you fucking.
It's the worst.
It's madness.
It's like the movie,
madness.
The movie, The Hustler.
Yeah.
When if you guys haven't seen that movie, it's a classic.
That's a classic.
Jackie Gleason, man.
Piper Laurie.
And it's such a great movie. But
George C. Scott.
My buddy's writing the movie.
You owe me money.
Exactly.
It was so great with Bert. Yeah, Bert, whatever.
That was pretty good. Bert Gordon. That was pretty good. Very good, Bubba.
Well,
and you beat me to it because I was just about to do it.
He was the original evil manager guy.
But they play all night, and then it's like it goes on, and Jackie Gleason goes in, washes his hands and his face, comes back out.
Puts on a new shirt.
shirt.
Well, that was also about some people just find a way to lose.
Character.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people find a way to lose.
You're a loser, Eddie.
You lost yourself.
In fighting, it's what you see front runners. You see guys that do great as long as they're kicking the shit out of the other guy. But once they start getting it put on them, they fold. There's some dudes that just always fold. They do great and then they fold. They do not know how to come from behind.
I read a really good book recently called 10-Minute Toughness. It's have you heard about it?
No.
It's about sports by a sports psychologist. He's worked with the biggest athletes in the world, mostly gymnasts, ice skaters, fighters, wrestlers, and guys like that, and skiers and things like that.
How dare you put skiers and fighters?
I know, but it's all. But when you're competing, especially
they're fighting those moguls, Joe.
It's crazy. Well, gymnastics, you make one mistake and you're disqualified. Ice skating,
or you break your fucking neck.
Yeah, and what happens is what he talks about is really fascinating. He said that it's not about, you see, athletes have a very hard time dealing with.
When Bryan crosses his legs, he means business, and that you're
Especially when
about
it does
to
in
get.
a way that anatomically isn't possible for me.
I know. I just have beautiful.
My troll legs.
I got. You know,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm going. That was just funny,
But
Bubba.
he said the hardest thing to do is like it's not about willpower. Willpower never lasts. What lasts is managing your self-image. So you have to learn how to talk to yourself the right way. So most people have negative, especially if you become an athlete. And if you got a lot to lose, like you're going for the belt or you have the belt, whatever, you will sabotage yourself if you don't know how to talk to yourself and ask yourself positive questions. Because most people ask themselves negative questions, right? What if I fail? What if I choke? All these things. So what he'll take athletes to do is he'll come up with, he'll have you start talking to yourself. First, you start talking to yourself the right way. You start asking yourself positive questions and you start talking to yourself the right way. And then what he'll do is this. He'll give you something to say before you work. So one guy, George Brett, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, he used to say this to himself: "Try easier, try easier, try easier." Another guy would say this:
Try easier.
not try
Relax.
harder, relax. Another guy
Try,
would say
but
this:
don't
Another
make a
guy
big
would say
thing out
this,
of it.
This gymnast who won a gold medal. I think that's the guy in the book. I can't remember. But he
Breathe.
goes like this. He goes, look away, relax. No, relax, look away, go away. And he would say that to himself. And it became a mantra of
his
him
mantra.
taking himself out of the equation. But he gives you these, he really gives you basically.
That's
he
all
says,
well and good if someone's not kicking your fucking ass.
Same thing fighting though. He said,
Look away.
But,
Right.
yeah.
Leg
Go
kick,
away.
Right
You gotta
hand,
come up
you
with a
see
way.
stars.
Well, what he's saying is that most of us
Kicks you
defeat
in the
ourselves. Most of
balls.
us defeat ourselves.
Pretty sure
you
your
know?
dick's bleeding. Yeah, look away. Fuck
You told me to look away, cause
Yeah, you gotta learn how to be an animal.
Yeah, well, it depends on. It's all sport particular.
Well, it's also it's sport
But you
particular.
gotta manage
it's
your
also,
self-image.
You have to have done the work. It's
Sure.
not all about your
Absolutely.
mind. You have to have done the work. Because if you haven't done the work, you're not going to be
You're done.
confident, and
Absolutely.
you're going to have questions.
That's right.
And when you're in a bad spot, you're going to have questions.
That's right.
You know, I remember there's always a difference, a huge difference between when I was in really good shape and I knew that I trained really hard, and when I would take things like last minute notice. I would fight in tournaments. I knew I wasn't prepared. I just wasn't ready.
Yep.
My head wasn't ready. My body wasn't ready. If your body isn't ready, your head's not going to be ready. It's not going to believe in your body.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you know you've done the work, then you would feel great. Then you'd feel invincible. And then when you get your ass kicked, that's when you got to rethink.
That's when,
things.
yeah. New career.
That was as good as I could be. Well, there's certain dudes that were always going to get you. You know, there's certain physical attributes that some people have. Like we talked about fists earlier. I always had that. I always had giant hands, you know, and I always had crazy knockout power, unusual knockout power for someone my size.
You have
And
mitts.
it's nothing. I didn't go to school for that, you know.
Not
like
mittens.
like George Foreman. All right, I'm obviously not comparing myself to George Foreman, but he had the most ridiculous sized hands. They
didn't
were
know that.
canned hams.
Huh.
So if you look at his fight with Michael Moore, he hit Michael Moore with a punch. I swear to God, I was with a bunch of people go, "It's a fix. That fucking punch was nothing." That punch was nothing from you. But if that was a telephone pole with a glove on the end of it, and it just thumped you in the fucking face from 10 inches like that punch did, it would knock you the fuck out, okay?
Yeah.
Well, George Foreman was 300 pounds with a giant canned ham for a fist, except it's got giant bones inside of it like a hippo knee, and it fucking slams you in the jaw.
A hippo knee.
That's a
And your
fantastic
shit
image.
goes out.
A hippo knee is the greatest. That's the greatest metaphor. For
And there are dudes who have just really unusual physical attributes. With me, I always had big hands and big knees, and I always had an unusual amount of power. Roy Jones Jr. is a perfect example. There's a guy who you cannot deny, there was physical gifts that transcend mere mortals. He had movement and speed that no one could compete with. You just could not compete with it. He was so good and so fast in his youth that he never used the jab. He would leap in with a left hook that
So
you couldn't
weird.
stop. He did everything wrong. His hands were down, his chin was up. He would put his hands behind his back and then knock you out with a punch like it was a fucking movie.
So crazy.
When he was at his best, man,
played
it was-
basketball games.
No, he would play a fucking professional basketball game
yeah.
the day of a fight
And
where he
go-
was defending his title.
and go fight a guy who's heavier, in a
And then
different
box
weight class.
12 rounds
What a freak.
and
What a
you know,
freak.
go up to heavyweight and fuck up. You know
Yeah.
when he fucked up, man? He fucked up when he went up to heavyweight, and when he fought John Ruiz, put on the performance of a lifetime to shut John Ruiz out. As a heavyweight, the guy used
Ruiz is
to
huge.
be 168 168. He used to fight at 168. By the way, not even cut weight to make 168. That's how fucking good Roy Jones was. Okay? And when he went up to heavyweight, he put on a lot of bulk. And he really do steroids, probably. And when he got off the steroids or whatever the fuck it was to get up to heavyweight, which, by the way, he had to have. He was in his 30s. There's no doubt about it. You put on 20 pounds of muscle like that over a short period of time, you're doing something. He's working with Mackie Shillstone and all that. That's a guy that worked with Evander Holyfield and Michael Spinks. They give you things, all right? These are pro athletes, all right? Period. Let's stop playing games, okay? The best guys all take something if they want to get bigger. There's no other way around it, right? Okay, so he goes up and then he comes back. And when he comes back, he cuts weight down to light heavyweight. And he's off the shit. He looks terrible, okay? And he gets in there with Antonio Tarver, a dude who's not scared of him. A dude who he had a real close fight with before,
Christ.
and Antonio Tarver in the middle of the ring
Knocked
goes,
him out
"You
for-
got any excuses tonight, Roy?"
Is that what he said?
That's what he said when they were
Wow.
fucking going eye to eye, and he said it with confidence. And then when you're not used to that, when you're used to being the guy who is chicken fighting and standing in front of a guy and just
I
blasting
saw that
guys.
fight. He knocked him out
Yeah.
for. I thought he was dead.
Tarver cracked him. Well, that was not that fight. It was the next fight with Glenn Johnson. Glenn Johnson fucked him up. Glenn Johnson
what it was.
knocked him completely unconscious, where his head was off the mat,
Oh,
his
God, it
legs
was
were
awful.
stiff, and his
I
arms
hate
were
that
stiff.
shit. I hate
that's like brain damage
I don't
shit.
like seeing that
And then he took a long time off, and then he came back, and he got knocked out recently by that Russian dude Lebedev. I think.
So
that's
he's
his
still
name.
fighting?
Yeah, man, he got knocked out in his not his last fight, but his fight next to last. His last fight, he won a decision over a guy who had no business in the ring with him, but he owes money to taxes.
Yeah.
He owes like
does?
$3 million to
Yep.
the IRS or something, according to the
Can
internet.
somebody get these guys and?
Well, he's in his 40s. But the thing is now, unlike Bernard Hopkins, who in his 40s, he's still
Unbelievable.
fucking people up. You know why?
Unbelievable.
Because he's a technician.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Because he's a technician.
Great,
He's
great.
always got his hands up.
He would never
chin
he wasn't as
tucked.
gifted as those guys. He had to learn the game.
Exactly.
Hall
His
of Famer.
footwork is perfect. He's always in the right position. And when he's not sure if you're going to hit him or not, he grabs you.
Yeah.
He grabs you and mugs you. Punches you in the fucking back of the head.
unbelievable.
Waits for the referee to come. Punches you in the back of the head on the break. He's just, he fucks you up. He roughs
Steps
you
on
up.
your foot.
Hall of
Makes-
Famer.
Yeah.
He does all kinds of.
He's
So
a
Kelly Pavlik,
technician.
Bad
apparently what he
motherfucker.
said to Kelly Pavlik after he beat him was he grabbed him and he goes, "Don't let this ruin you. Don't let this ruin you."
You know what else he said? You need to learn how to fight like a black guy.
He did.
Yeah. Yeah, go train with some black people. Learn how to fight like
That's
a black
hilarious.
guy.
Wow.
It's fucking right.
In other
The
words, don't
Kelly
get hit,
Pavlik
don't
fight,
get hit, or-
I wrote a blog entry about that. I wrote a long article on my website. If you just Google Bernard Hopkins is a bad motherfucker, that's the name of the article. Because it was just, I was so blown away by this guy in his late 40s who's taking on this knockout artist from the rough and tumble streets of, I think it was like, where's he
New
from?
Bedford, right?
No. He's from Youngstown, Ohio. Same place as
Yeah.
Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Oh, yeah.
And he's fucking knocking everybody out. Knocked, what's his face out? He knocked a gang of people out. Kelly Pavlik was knocking, but the
was a
one
tough
dude
kid.
that he knocked out for the title, that fucking shit, I forget his name. Poor kid wound up getting knocked out by a bunch of people after that. Jermaine Taylor,
Taylor, right.
Jermaine
right.
Taylor.
Tough guy.
Yeah.
Real
Tough
tough
guy.
guy, but he was another one that
Yeah.
they said that was really talented, didn't quite train as hard as
Right.
he should have because he was so talented, and he
So
wound up
athletic.
getting knocked out a few times.
Once you lose a step, right? Once you lose a step, and
But also the reality of concussions, man. The reality of
Absolutely.
concussions is you get that
I've had
first
6.
one. Yeah. Have you had 6?
I've had 6, dude.
Whoa.
I don't think about it when I watch those HBO shows and I read more, and I read the science section at times.
Do you have like headaches or do you
No,
get
I don't.
depressed easy?
No, I don't.
Well, you're
And
lucky. You're also Irish. And I think a lot of Irish people are used to concussions. It's just part of the DNA.
part of the DNA.
Well, I won't say that it's genetic, but I will say that it's probably been handed down.
Well, a shillelagh across the head as a young lad.
Have you seen the documentary Knuckle?
Oh, the bear fighting?
That's so
Bear
funny.
knuckle
Those
fighting?
guys are so
hilarious.
funny.
Oh, they're amazing.
It's just like clans. Like
Yeah.
Ireland's just clans.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something right now. I'll beat that man, and there's no quit on the face of the earth that can beat me. Not a man.
You're
not
a bag
man.
of shite.
You're a bag
not
of
a man.
shite.
You're a bag of shite.
Mary.
I'll
And
fight
I'll tell you
anytime.
something
Come out,
else, Patty.
Mary.
I'll tell you something else, Patty. Nevin. No, Nevin, and the history of the Nevins has ever beaten
But
us.
I've never seen the man out. I've never seen the man ever reach for a check.
He's hiding under his
I've
wife's.
never seen men reach for a check.
He hides
And they'll
under his
take their
wife's
shirts
dress.
off and reveal the most unimpressive physiques.
Oh, it's great.
Anyone can throw hands. I'll throw hands.
I'll poke your eyes out. Your eyes I'll poke out. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah,
By the
it's
way,
amazing.
how about my Irish bro?
Yeah, what
Sorry.
part of Scotland is that Irish guy from?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you fucked up, buddy.
Yeah.
You went Sean
I'm-
Connery.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible.
But you know what it is? Here's what it is: alcohol and ugly women. You just start fighting. That's what it is. They're not fighting over territory. They're fighting to have some fucking meaning to their life.
That's right.
That's why they're angry at each other all the time.
It's ritualistic violence.
Yeah, they're trying to have some meaning for their everyday existence.
Exactly.
By the way, they're always tired, okay, because they're drunk all the time. When you're doing that, your motivation, your joie de vie, your lust of life, it's kind of out the window.
Yeah.
You're always depressed.
I was looking at the guy. I was like, oh, he's got to be 55. He was younger than I was. He was like 33.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, these guys get
Your
hammered.
brain is soiled.
Yeah. You get hammered all the time like that, man, and those guys are always irritable as well. But some of them have amazing endurance for dudes who are drinking all the time.
Fuck
It's
yeah,
really
those fights
incredible.
lasted 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Not a really fucking frantic pace though.
No.
It's not like a Nick Diaz fight. He's on you fucking ripping
it's
shots to your rib cage.
Yeah.
They like hit each other
I'd love
once
to
and then
see-
they cover up.
I'd
and,
love to
you know.
see Nick Diaz just walk into one of those things. Just pretend
What
he's an
bitch?
Irishman.
Be like, what bitch?
He'd be
What
like,
bitch?
But he'd have to be like, batch.
Did he just call me a bitch?
Hey, call me
Yeah.
a bitch.
That man just called me a bitch.
Well, not only that, he
Nick
would be
and- Nick
hitting
and
them
you
with
can
like
do it,
those
yeah.
50% punches,
Right,
50% power, and they'd be like, "This guy hits like a bitch." Next thing you know, he's fucking beating you into a bloody
Exactly.
pulp. He's not.
Nick, if you
he's
can do
not
it, work
tired
on your
anymore.
Irish accent, go to Ireland, join a clan, you'll make a fortune. Look, what's Nick
don't
Diaz
make
doing
any
now?
money. There's no money in
they
that.
bet $120,000 on those fights. They get the whole village to pitch
whole
in.
village
You got to
comes
see the
in.
documentary.
$120,000.
Yeah, the purse
And
was
that's a lot.
$120,000, man. They get the whole clan to pitch in. They're like, you got to
All
pitch
of,
in.
all of a
It's
sudden,
for the family
Nick
honor.
Diaz
We're in a
right now
major
is in a
recession,
gym
man.
in Stockton, and he's wrapping his hands while he's listening to this podcast, and he just went, "Did you say 120,000, man? Because I'll tell you what, man, fucking, I ain't no bitch. I'll fucking fight that dude."
He'll get a clover. He'll get a huge clover tattooed to his chest.
And it'll be like, "Can I wear gloves?" He probably just doesn't want to hurt his hands. Like, you can go bare knuckle. I'll just wear these little gloves.
I'll wear these gloves.
Go ahead, bare knuckle, dude.
I'll blindfold myself and still beat you up. I love the way that dude
Well,
fights.
the skill level of these guys is terrible. You watch these Irish
And
boxer guys.
Nick is such a, seems like he's his.
Well, you guys are
boxing-
spoiled.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, of
you
course.
guys are so
Yeah.
spoiled.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Nick's-
I am too. I don't.
Well,
watch as much
there's
as you. It's like-
still. I am always. Look, I'm always pretty critical about a lot of things in MMA, but I'm pretty honest about it. But one of the most the aspects of MMA that's the least evolved is the striking. And there's a reason why a guy like Nick Diaz can come in there and just fucking box people up. Because no one is, first of all, he's got a very unique style that's all his own, and he's figured out how to do that. That style of boxing for MMA is pretty fucking effective. But when you look at like the high level strikers in other organizations, you're simply not seeing that in MMA yet. And that's why there's a new kid that just came in and fought in this last UFC, the first fight of the night actually, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's 60-0 as a kickboxer.
Jesus.
Okay, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, and he's but he's a karate kickboxer. So he's got this crazy style where he fights with the front leg first.
Yeah.
And he fights like completely sideways, but he throws like front leg roundhouse kicks, spinning kicks, all this wild shit. He knocked this fucking dude out with a front leg roundhouse kick to the face. The dude didn't even see coming because nobody would have thrown it
That's
that
like
way.
a taekwondo thing. You
Yeah,
practice it.
exactly. But he's more of a karate, kickboxing, like above the waist kickboxing, and those point tournaments. I think that's where he started out.
Those guys
And
cannot
then-
kick your head off with those
Fuck
roundhouse
yeah.
kicks.
And those
Roundhouse,
kicks-
wheel kicks, back kicks, they fucking
It's
crush you.
the front leg, man. There's no one kicks with the front leg like this guy does, and I've always saw that in Taekwondo tournaments.
too.
I always knew it was possible. There was another dude in Russia really recently. He was a really high level karate guy as well. He fought in a lot of Kyokushin tournaments. And he came out and axe kicked this dude in the face, and then 360 roundhouse kicked him unconscious
you go.
in the air. Boom! Which is a really effective
But
technique.
I know guys in my
in
buddy's
Taekwondo,
school,
exactly. They could do that.
I even I was talking to Nate Marquardt. I go, Nate, please trust me. I don't know anything. I'm an actor. I have no business talking to you about fighting. I'm a pussy, but I did do Taekwondo, and I have friends that can kick better than anybody you've ever seen. I go, just go to my school, and you'll be amazed.
Well,
And,
dude,
you know,
I fucking sat down with George St. Pierre, and I was amazed that he would listen to me. You
Yeah.
know, when he was like, I need someone to teach me the spinning back kick, and I'm like, dude, I can teach you. I can teach you. I thought he was like humoring me, like
Right.
the commentator is
Right.
just going to teach me. But when we came to the gym, we started working out. There's videos of it online if people don't
Yeah.
believe me.
Yeah.
But the guys that get like really good at kicking like that, here's the thing: they don't learn how to box, and they don't learn how to wrestle, and they don't learn jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So that's all they do. They fight in these Taekwondo tournaments, and they have these wild fucking kicks.
and they don't punch to the face
But
a lot of
those
times.
wild kicks leave you vulnerable for wrestling. They leave you. They're not effective on their own.
Right.
They're only effective if you learn that other shit.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't, because to get so good at kicks and then to learn all that other stuff, you have to be a beginner again. You have to get your ass
and
kicked
usually,
again.
by the way, you got to
Yeah.
start when you're young.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
That's why
it's
guys
true.
like Rory McDonald, any of those young guys who,
Yes.
if you can float between camps, like if you can just learn, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
So the level of striking, like Alistair Overeem right now represents the highest level of kickboxing in MMA. Guy won the K1 Grand Prix, period. You don't get any better than that.
Yeah.
It's a guy who's beaten Peter Ertz, beaten Gokhan Saki. He's a fucking killer. Knocked out Badr Hari. So he right now represents the highest level of kickboxing in MMA. So you look at him, you go, striking doesn't get any better than that. It gets different.
Yeah.
It gets different. Some guys, they have different techniques and different tools. But what he doesn't represent is that crazy Taekwondo shit. Like front leg roundhouse
Yeah.
kicks and wheel kicks and axe
Yeah.
kicks. And that is what this Stephen Thompson guy represents. And so there's another layer to the
I
cake
gotta
that's just
watch
been
that
added.
fight.
Is he American? Stephen
Thompson, yeah.
Because-
He's a
because-
bad motherfucker. He's
Yeah.
only
Where's he from?
28 years old, too.
Yeah, but I think
don't know,
also,
somewhere
I
in
think,
America.
I think also like striking. If you had to choose, it seems like you would choose to be a striker first, you learn as a kid, and
Yeah.
then you get really good at striking, and then you can really become like if you put 10 years or 5-6 years as an adult into jiu-jitsu, you can get, depending on who you are. But these athletes can get really good. You can get good enough. to
Depending on
stop
who you
anyone.
are. I mean,
Yeah.
with St. Pierre, see, look, St. Pierre has a karate background, his Kyokushin
Right.
background, and that's one of the reasons why his kicks are so good, his movement is so, I mean, the Muay Thai stuff that he learned later on, it was easy for him to
Sure.
adopt because he already had this really strong karate background. And then he learned how to wrestle.
Yeah.
I mean, this crazy thing is you look at George, and he's the best wrestler in MMA.
So weird.
The most effective. But he didn't even learn how to wrestle in high school or college. He didn't wrestle in
There
high
you go.
school or
and you
college.
don't see that with striking, really. It's really hard to do that with
Yeah.
striking because
It's rare. It's honestly, he's very rare to see that even in
Right.
for wrestling.
Oh, of
it's
course,
very
of course,
rare.
Of course. I mean,
but
he's special. But my buddy's a pro boxer, and he said the way you get really good at like being able to like slip punches and get really comfortable with that kind of speed and that timing is when you start when you're 7 and you can
Yeah.
catch and you learn how to catch punches like jabs on your forehead and all that. You've got to start as a kid because kids can't hurt each other. They don't hit as hard. So you start to learn how to you come up learning.
that's
how to
all
not
well and
get
good
hit.
until you add Taekwondo to the
Of
situation.
course.
I've seen little kids knock other little kids
Yeah, you're right, dude.
unfucking
And
conscious,
it's bad.
and that's uncomfortable to
Yeah.
watch.
Oh.
I've seen some little 8 and 9-year-olds knock each other the fuck out.
I don't like
That's
that shit.
dangerous.
It is dangerous.
don't
And you
think-
know what, man? They tell them, like easy contact to the face. Yeah, whatever.
No.
Half these people are savages that are fighting in these
Give
fucking
them a
things.
fucking helmet
Yeah.
that works.
Those helmets don't work. Those cushiony
Hockey helmets, they don't
things-
work?
No, the cushiony Taekwondo helmets
Yeah.
at the waist. Here's what's not covered: your fucking
Yeah.
face. Guys are getting wheel kicked
I
in the
agree.
face by other little kids, and
Yeah.
I don't care if you're 30 pounds. If you have a wheel kick and it spins around with that heel, and you hit a 30-pound kid in the face, you're gonna knock him
can
out,
kill him.
man.
You can
It's
kill him.
dangerous.
I was 10 when I had my first concussion, okay, making